our attempt at a heavy metal t-shirt show. I'm Randy Detour from the Tribune Review.
I'm Brian Krause from the Daily News, and I literally just got here.
I've been here for a while, and let me tell you didn't miss anything, Brian. I am, as always, Tom Combetti.
That's wonderful.
I guess I should explain myself why I'm not donning a heavy metal shirt since
Oh, I'm sorry about that one.
Uh-oh, we're sued.
since what we do on the show the best is explain ourselves. So
Yes.
I called Sebastian Bach and I said, "Hey SB, can you send me a shirt?" And he said, I threw in some WWF tickets for him, and he hung up the phone on me. So apparently he's as fed up with the WWF as we are.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's why,
Good to know.
I don't know how Tom got the Skid Row shirt. He must know someone else in the band. But
Well, see, the thing was, I gave him our old backyard tapes, and he was like, you know what, brother? That's good enough for me. I'll send you a shirt. And unfortunately, he cut the sleeves off at the last minute, so I look like I'm hunting tackle. Well, either or, I got the shirt on.
You got a cool pair of eyeballs in the middle of your chest. That's what's kind of neat about that.
it almost was like Dean Malenko's old shirt.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Well, we should probably, after this segment, because we only have a couple seconds here, explain our choices, Tom, but we'll do that later. We have a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have a pay-per-view coming up tomorrow night, as well as Raw, as we always do. And we're going to do a segment this week about draft cuts, since the rumor has been that WWE's going to start cutting some talent. Well, we're going to play writers this week, and I know that's hard for some of you to believe, but
Yeah.
we're going to tell you who we think should be cut from the WWF. So I'm sure we have some interesting picks, some that you may not think are on that list.
That and Jim DeBruza may be with us later.
Yeah,
He may be on the draft cut list, as a
word
matter
is
of
he's going
fact.
to swing in on a chandelier sometime around 9 o'clock. So
He's in final negotiations for the Christmas show, and we can't really talk about what he's negotiating.
Clearing up all that red tape. You know how how much of a pain that is compared to last year. So
it's very
all new
hush-hush.
stipulations.
So I think we're going to be hush-hush right now.
Hush, hush, too shot. Never mind.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about this Sunday's pay-per-view, so stay with us. Again, something we also
Stellar.
touched on last week was the fact that maybe this title unification, I don't know, we're not on a limb here like we always
Already
do,
laughing.
maybe doesn't mean as much as it should,
Yeah.
but
Oh, it definitely doesn't.
let's talk.
I guess so. Yeah, it means nothing, basically.
Well, maybe not
It
nothing.
means very little.
Well, I can
Close
agree
to
with that.
nothing.
The
As
thing-
close to nothing as you could get.
The thing is, what are they unifying? Okay, I realize it's the WWF World Title, but what's the other belt called? You can't unify a belt with no name.
No.
It's just
If you want to call it it, oh, they're unifying it.
it's
Yeah.
The Rock and the title. See how that goes
And
together.
he drags it to the ring because he doesn't want it.
Well, who would? I mean, it's nothing. It's
Yeah,
a
that-
belt. I mean,
Exactly.
I think, Rennie, you had mentioned it on the webpage. Why not just keep the WCW title name around, even though you've gotten rid of the Alliance? Nobody ever said in the stipulations, we're getting rid of WCW. They said we're getting rid of the Alliance, and that's what they did. So they could have kept it the WCW title, and I don't really think anybody would have made a big deal about it, because it is one of the most storied World Heavyweight titles in wrestling. The WWF clearly dropped the ball on this and just about everything the last 6 months.
Well, it's
That's
another
how that
point that we touched on is the fact that I think the reason they only kept the title around is so The Rock would have something, and so it would make vengeance seem important.
Yeah.
When in actuality, you're saying title unification, and what you're getting is the WWF World Title versus a belt.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's unfortunate to say that, but that is basically what the WCW title has become.
Well, not basically. That's what it has become. I mean, that's it. Really, The Rock dragging that title to the ring is pointless because it doesn't mean a thing. The whole WCW thing is gone. How could you be the champion of nothing? If WCW's not there, essentially, how could you be the champion of nothing? So it just really, it's non-existent and it's meaningless.
I mean, everything I have basically said about titles not meaning anything anymore are true, and I'm just going to end up repeating myself anyway. I don't understand where if you would have came to me 4 years ago, oh my God, they're going to have a title unification match. This will be the biggest pay-per-view of all time. Well, the 4 guys in it, I think you wrote this on your column, they're great talent. Well, 3.5 are great talents. But it doesn't mean anything.
he's talking about
And,
Jericho.
and I had brought this up on last week's show about showing clips about, the history behind the title It. There is a history, people. It's just not that title from Double Dare that Bobby Heenan and Monsoon won many years ago. To say they bent over and someone kicked them between the legs would be just too much of a compliment to say how much they've screwed WCW, the title, everything, every other wrestler in that company, how much The Rock has benefited and he shouldn't have. I'm done.
Well, I ended my column on the webpage saying that I for some reason, Vince McMahon, he always has a special place in his heart for some of his WWF talent, like Andre the Giant, Pedro Morales. But for some reason, he can't have that same emotional attachment to someone like a Magnum TA or a Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes, of course, who competed in the WWF in that horrible polka dot outfit. But nonetheless, if McMahon's so big on tradition, so big on talking about his father and what he went through to get the company from his dad, why can't he show some of that emotion towards WCW?
Yeah.
It's his, and this is gonna, again, we're gonna sound like broken records, but it's his company.
Right.
He has yet to see that.
Well, I think the problem is, and this has been something you can trace through the years, it's not Vince-made talent. And Vince McMahon's always had a problem with people who aren't Vince-made talent. Look at the Road Warriors. He made Demolition, and Demolition, granted, was a bigger success than anybody ever thought they would be. They had 3 tag team titles. They dominated the late 80s, like the Road Warriors should have. And when he got the Road Warriors, he crapped all over them. We'll go back to Ronnie Garvin, who he insulted the crap out of.
Doesn't it always come back to Ronnie Garvin at the end, though?
Ronnie Garvin's the center of the wrestling universe. He was an NWA World Champion, and they took a 5'6", buzz cut looking idiot and made him a respectable wrestler in the NWA, and Vince McMahon took him and crapped on him. Because it's not Vince-made talent. So you're right, Randy. He doesn't have the emotional ties to these wrestlers because he had nothing to do with their development and he had nothing to do with their existence. So to him, it doesn't mean anything.
Totally in agreement.
But ultimately, and I'm not arguing this point with you, but
Yeah.
ultimately, and I've said it before, it's his company.
I
now.
agree.
He's
I agree.
sacrificing ratings, and I mentioned this in my column last week with the Tribune Review. He's sacrificing ratings and buy rates
Right.
and talent just so he can live out some boyhood dream of burying WCW, when in actuality he's burying his own profit margin.
And he buried WCW in the ratings for the last 2 years. I mean, wasn't that enough?
Yeah, point has been made. Vince, you're a genius. Now act like it.
Yeah.
2 points I'd like to bring up here real quick. One, there have been attempts at title unification over the years, whether it was Bob Backlund against Harley Race for the WWE, well, it would have just been WWF, NWA World title at the time. And there was several of those. I know Rick Martel with the AWA title was in maybe one of those. My history here is a little brief.
Flair and Backlund.
Flair and Backlund. These matches went 60-minute time limits, and that is unheard of. Oh my God, they can wrestle for 60 minutes. Show maybe a clip from this. Look, Bob Backlund, that guy that turned on Helen Hart and Stu Hart at the time. He's a WWFer. Ric Flair, he's currently a WWFer. Why don't you show that?
Yeah,
Can you?
exactly.
These matches, The Rock and Jericho, I'm willing to bet it's going to be 5 minutes, and obviously The Rock's going to win. Right. These matches that gave it prestige, 60 minutes. No, one guy was dead even with the other one. And the other point I'd like to bring up is this past Monday on Raw. Where were the interviews at? I want to be the first ever unified champion. Where was it? Rock was too busy kissing Trish, which stupid. Austin, a guy that's been trying to put the WWF out of business for the past 4 years, all of a sudden everybody's cheering him. Well, he tried to kill your company. We still love him because he goes, what? Which is getting very annoying, I'd like to add, more so than I am on this show. But where were Jericho attempted an interview at being the first unified champion. Where were the Rocks? Where was Austin's?
Yeah.
The faces don't care. The heels care more about the titles than the faces.
That's something we're going to get to when we review Raw, but before we leave you, it's just one of those things, and I mentioned this in the column if any of you haven't read it yet, is the fact that if you really look at the 2 titles, WCW's title has a lot more heritage, a lot more lineage, a lot more importance if you look at how it was defended over the years. And I reference back to Hulk Hogan. Here's a guy who was the biggest thing in the world in the 80s, but Flair was wrestling.
I agree
Hogan
with
was
you.
pushing vitamins and movies,
Right.
and Flair was wrestling, making a name for himself.
And Flair was wrestling great match. Flair pulled great matches out of Nikita Koloff, out of Road Warrior Hawk. I mean, out of guys.
Lex
it
Luger.
was out of Lex Luger, who was incomprehensible if these guys had ever had great matches. And Ric Flair pulled great matches out of him for that title, and it's so sad that it just doesn't mean anything anymore.
Well, we're not going to dwell the entire show, even though we could, on the problems with the WCW title. We're going to come back. We're going to run through the rest of Vengeance's lineup, so come back.
We were talking about the Vengeance pay-per-view, and more specifically the heavyweight title. And Tom, you mentioned an interesting quirk about the heavyweight title that has long been forgotten.
Yeah, those little things that they carry to the ring with them now, those title belts. You used to have 30 days to defend the title. And back in the day, I had brought this up during the break, when Ric Flair was injured by Terry Funk, which was one of the most horrific beatings I've ever seen in my life.
That was great.
Power driving Ric Flair on a table after a great match with Ricky Steamboat. Flair was at home recuperating. They went to his house, did a really good sit-down interview with him about how he's recuperating, how he's doing, and the fact that Flair didn't want to lose that title to the 30-day rule because, well, frankly, they would have taken the title off of him, and he was just, the interview was great. And I guess the NWA committee, or whatever the heck it was called at the time, allotted Flair the time with the title to recuperate so he could come back and wrestle Funk with the title. And the thing was, that was great for a lot of fans. Like, Flair's not going to get the title taken off him. Now, I couldn't even tell you, honestly, well, they unified the U.S. title. I couldn't tell you half the titles in the WWF. They don't mean anything anymore, and we've said this for months and months and months. titles just don't have the prestige they used to have. And a unification match, which should be the biggest thing in the world, the biggest story of the year in any wrestling year, doesn't mean anything.
Right. Yeah, and Vince Russo may have called it a prop, but if the prop has to mean something, a prop is there for a reason. And if the prop has zero meaning and there's really no reason for it to be there, then it's really not much of a prop. So.
And speaking of props, it's a nice segue into our first other match besides the main event. It's the women's title. Trish is taking on Jackie, and if there was ever a prop match,
Here's
shan't be it.
Wait, they're not wrestling in hot oil or
I think it's one of those Orville Redenbacher popcorn matches or something.
Here's my beef for this, and I'm really hitting the bottom of the barrel here. If you watched Raw this past Monday, which bless you if you did, by the way, wouldn't the match you would think would be made for the pay-per-view, wouldn't it be McMahon-Trish? I mean, those are the two that are feuding. Why was Jackie thrown in? And I realize your women's title, obviously, you don't need any build-up. You just need a pool with water in it and, scantily clad, either men or women for that matter, if you're depending who you're talking to. I don't understand. Why am I'm bickering about the women's title? Somebody just cut me off.
Basically, I just wanted to say that the match was going to be at the pay-per-view and then leave it at that.
Yeah, we didn't expect discussion, I guess.
Well,
so, but you tried.
Let's look at one positive. Jackie may give someone a fat lip. That's always good.
Or she might say the word skank and come out skunk again, which is always a plus. It's always a positive.
Another marquee title match. The Dudley Boys, who have the consecutive record for opening up Raw matches.
Yeah. Bad Raw matches, by the way.
It's one of those ones where you hear their music, it's like, oh.
It's like the Big Boss Man. You used to hear the old Big Boss Man music. It was like, no.
Well, the Cobb County, Georgia music was great, where you could actually hear him beating Coco Beware with a stick in the background, while Billy Graham repeatedly said no, and he was going to go to the committee that never existed and get Big Boss Man fired. It was WrestleFest '88. The Ultimate Warrior wrestled Bobby Heenan in a weasel suit. Go rent it. I recommend it.
Well, there aren't going to be any weasel suits in this match, but it is Kane and the Big Show versus the champions, the Dudleys. And, well, if there was ever a sign of not trying, this might be it, because Kane and the Big Show, not that they won't make a good team, but why are they together?
It's so natural.
Why are they together?
Big
Show's floated between Spike, Tajiri, Kane,
Billy Gunn,
a singles wrestler.
I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine.
Is it just one of those things where the Dudley Boys need someone to pull them down even further if they're not already been there?
They need yet another team to lose the titles to.
Well, one of two reasons. One, well, they're both big. Maybe two, well, Kane was burned as a child in a fire. Maybe the Big Show wants to set himself on fire. I don't know. Here's a case where you got two big guys. Let's see. We don't know what to do with you. Get out there as a tag team. Maybe it'll stick. Let's throw it against the wall. If it runs down and falls on the floor, it doesn't work. If it sticks, it'll stick for a little bit, then it'll fall down.
But unfortunately, the way the WWF has operated the last the last year, it'll be, let's throw it at the wall and give it the titles and see if it sticks. And if it doesn't, then we'll just move the belts onto someone else 2-3 days later. And that's a problem. This could actually end up being beneficial in the long run if the Dudleys win. If the Dudleys can get a nice strong win out of this, retain the titles, that can go a long way toward that particular title reign and perhaps establishing them. But it's not.
Well, in Michael Cole's eyes, as this past Sunday on Heat was any evidence for it, he referred to the Dudleys as the greatest tag team in wrestling history. Now, I don't know if Cole's on ecstasy or any other drug for that matter, but I mean, all the tag teams throughout the years, I mean, even the Mulkey brothers, for God's sake, and he's calling the Dudleys the greatest tag team in wrestling history.
Yeah.
He needs severely beaten.
It is Michael Cole, and we can all be glad the fact that maybe a Kane Big Show feud might come out of this.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
So they can yell at each other in the back about who was more lethargic during the match.
Or better yet, a mask versus mask match like Vader and Kane, but Big Show doesn't have a mask. They can give him one overnight. I mean, it doesn't matter.
The other match we want to touch on is the Hardy Boys, which the match I believe was actually announced before the breakup. I guess it was a breakup on Raw happened. So it's another typical. I'm glad Shane McMahon's cleaning up that internet division because they're posting matches before they're even announced.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's true. And that too could have been one of those matches that had they taken the time to build it correctly and just have them, I don't know, an impromptu challenge come out of nowhere. Like when they had that backstage segment after their match, like as bad as that was, if the challenge would have just come up there, then it could have been salvageable somewhat. You could say, okay, pass off the bad acting. At least they brought up the match in a productive way.
Very quickly, if I was a writer, which I'm not, which I should be, which I don't even know if I should be, to have this match, obviously, before they kind of broke up, but they really didn't. The fact that they should wrestle at the pay-per-view, obviously. You have a great match. You have Jeff come out the winner, maybe with a small package. You have him go up and shake Matt's hand, maybe even hook that little thing called a microphone. you gave me a run for my money. You were the hardest guy I ever wrestled. Have Matt just level him.
Yeah, that'd be
Just
great.
beat the hell out of him. Then the next night on Raw, Matt come out. This is why I did it, obviously. Now it's going to be decided. The fate of the Hardy Boys is going to be decided by Lita. Rather than the two wrestlers where you could have a great heel come out of it as Matt and a sympathetic face as Jeff, the girl's going to determine the outcome. And who the hell doesn't see her going with Matt? I mean, maybe, I'm trying to think of the word, when you can see right through something. Clairvoyant.
Clairvoyant.
Isn't that it?
Transparent.
Either or.
Well, I think we're transparent now, so we're gonna come back, and I think maybe we can close the books on Vengeance. If we might change our mind during the break, though. So
Yeah, we got one more match, 2 more matches to talk about.
Did we talk about the
then I
main
guess
event?
we're gonna
No.
talk about Vengeance again. So come back and
Have fun.
We might be here.
Oh my gosh, it goes here.
About meaningless things. The WWF is actually great right now. We're just making all this up. I'd like to reintroduce, you can see him on camera now, direct from the front lines of some foreign country we'd rather not name, and it's too long. It sounds like, you can either have it on the plate or you're hungry for it. So welcome back, Jim. Hungry or turkey?
I got it.
No transition there. Boy, did that suck.
That was the introduction I deserved. Thank you.
Well, I don't know.
Say hi to everybody.
Is that a muscle shirt you're wearing? I
Yes,
just
actually it
noticed
is.
that. Why?
It's direct from SB. If you were here at the beginning of the show, you'd know the story behind it.
Well, Tom, I really wasn't here at the beginning of the show.
Well, you could have been.
I'll just have to watch it this week.
Ah.
Is it off-camera ramblings?
Well, no, actually, is it on? Where's Brian in Studio B at that? Brian knows the story. He can fill you in. But notwithstanding our rambling incoherentness,
Which we just been through about 15 seconds ago.
what are we talking about?
We're still talking about the Vengeance pay-per-view, and there's a few matches we didn't get to. The Undertaker wasn't at Raw this past week, but he is still facing Rob Van Dam at the pay-per-view. Any thoughts on this one? I mean, the
Well-
Undertaker had a sizzling heel turn, and I use that term loosely.
I don't know if there's a reason why he wasn't on Raw this past Monday. I don't know if it was a personal
I
reason.
think it was a personal reason.
Obviously that's understandable, but if there wasn't a personal reason in the fact that he, after a great heel turn, I can't believe I just said that, after the WWF's attempt at trying to turn, to make, almost knocked over Edge, I can't believe you, after almost trying to knock over Edge, take it away, I'm just rambling again. I guess what I'm
Well,
trying to say,
I
You
don't
make him
know, man.
nervous or
I'm
something?
starstruck. After trying to make a turn for a turn, which we basically came to the conclusion last week, the Undertaker's not even on Raw, but obviously,
Well,
if there's
disagree with
other
that a little
reasons.
bit. I don't think it was a turn for the sake of a turn's sake. I think you have nothing left to do with him.
Oh, how about fire him?
No, we'll get to that.
How about
later.
give him a Creed video and send him on his way?
Are we giving our time-honored, usually wrong predictions at this point?
Well, yeah.
As Rob Van Dam proved Monday night, and I'm going to offend a lot of people as I say this, every week it seems like when he gets time to show what he can do either on the mic or in the ring, you're beginning to see gaping holes in his ability. And you saw Monday night when he was doing his little head-to-head thing with Christian. He's not ready for anything. He's not ready to. He sure as hell ain't ready to beat the Undertaker. So I think the Undertaker has to beat him down. If it's for the hardcore title, give the belt to the Undertaker. Doesn't mean anything anyway.
Well, I mean,
Undertaker
The
destroyed
title
him.
or the Undertaker?
that is the
Title.
hardcore title, even though it might not mean anything, has been the only title that has been, actually defended. They kept it on the same guy. I don't know if that's because they just don't care about it, but Van Dam has had it for a while. But to take up on a point about the Undertaker, it's obvious that he's being put in a position right now that he just turned heel. He's not in a position to lose. You can't.
You would think that.
Well, that would be why would you turn him heel if he's going to lose? And plus, Van Dam
You're-
already holds a victory over
Are
him.
you asking my opinion on this, or?
No,
No, I
I'm staring
don't
at you
see-
just by accident.
I just don't think add all that up. Add up to the fact that Van Dam, he doesn't deserve to win this match. I'm sorry, he doesn't deserve. Everybody calm down at home. Raw Van Dam does not deserve to beat the Undertaker at Vengeance. Shouldn't happen.
Yeah, but the Undertaker doesn't deserve to win either for the simple fact that
Nobody wins.
maybe
Go to well, no, I guess I can't. Is it hardcore rules?
aren't all WWF matches hardcore
yeah,
rules now?
technically, I suppose, but double count or something. I don't know.
What are those?
Time limit draw, TV time.
That's when the ref
limit
goes
draw.
9, and then he just looks around and goes 1. Just nobody got that apparently.
Actually, I did. That's pretty funny.
Well, maybe I don't know. Maybe we'll see a shoot fest during the match. Maybe Van Dam will stiff him, and Undertaker will either fall out of the ring or just retaliate. Hey, it's worth watching. Not that I will be able to,
I'm
but
going to take this runaway train of a discussion and move into another match. It's Edge against William Regal. And I was kind of disappointed, to say the least, at how Edge attacked Regal on Raw. Taz from WWF New York saying, "I came here to hang out with Edge." Is this that great writing that, the Monday or the Tuesday morning feedback wow, the show was written so well. How and why and where was it?
We're
I
getting
don't know.
we're getting something patched through. It may be Taz from WWF Greensburg. So, oh no, wait, it's Brian. So let's go
He's
to
waiting to
Brian.
hang out with me. I'm in the wrong studio.
Oh yeah, you're strictly Studio Z. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, here I am. Actually, I was with Taz Monday night at WWF New York. It was really sad. He didn't even realize he had to do a promo. Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was like, did Taz's head, I didn't realize his head was that big, first of all, until they showed him on the Titantron, but that was really kind of silly. But you know what, I feel like such a broken record. I'm just going to go back to the whole title thing again. The logical, smart thing to do is to have Edge beat William Regal after a hard-fought 15 to 20-minute match. But that's not going to happen. I just have this feeling that now that Regal's got the 3-week push going right now, so I think that includes an Intercontinental title win. And sadly, I think Edge's reign has come to an end again. And Jim, I just want to point out, you were at the Mike Patton reunion show, and you failed to wear a Heavy Metal T-shirt.
I don't know what thing over made this week, man. Sorry. But real quick, just jumping on that Edge thing, yeah, I think he is going to lose. I mean, there was a report out this week that he is going to be taking some time off for various injuries. If it's true, it's a shame. Yeah, Edge, under any other circumstances, Brian's right. Edge should win in that manner. If he's taking time off, yeah, take the belt off him.
That's the thing. Edge isn't even. Well, he's just not the Intercontinental
Title holder.
He's not the IC title holder. He's also. Oh my God. He's also.
Slinky.
He's also the U.S. champion. Well, defunct obviously now. He does need a couple wins to add to his credibility, and I realize credibility has no place in the WWF
Well,
today.
no,
Look at The Rock, but he's
You're
going to lose to
absolutely
Regal.
right, but if he's taking time off, then
Well, how convenient. Why can't The Rock take time off?
He
My
He
God.
never gets injured. He doesn't do the kind of.
Well,
moves
maybe
that-
he should start getting injured.
You may be right. I'm gonna do a rant later on The Rock. It's gonna piss you off like you wouldn't believe.
Well,
Yeah.
somewhere in there was my original point that the writing on last Monday's show, it was just kind of predictable. I mean, who didn't see Edge attacking Regal
Not me.
after a 4-second match with Bradshaw? So, well, we've pretty much buried this pay-per-view, so if you still order it, God bless you. But we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about a lot of other wrestling-oriented items, so if you can last, so can we. Come back.
Segment of Pro Wrestling Review. Last week's winner was Eric Houston, who got all 4 of the questions right, and here we go. This is what they were. Which title did Chris Jericho win at WrestleMania 16? And that was the European title. Name at least one match from the debut telecast of Raw. He had mentioned Shawn Michaels versus Max Moon. Who defeated Bam Bam Bigelow to win the ECW title? Shane Douglas. And last week's question, name the first opponent Mick Foley wrestled as Mick Foley. And of course, that was Terry Funk. So congratulations, Eric. You do win a 1-topping large pizza, an order of wings, and a 2-liter beverage of your choice from the original Pizza Works in Dravosburg. And now, people, next week's question, or this week's question, is what was the main event of the 1999 WWF December pay-per-view? And just get onto our website, www.prowrestlingreview.com, click on to trivia, and give us the answers for the 3 questions that are on there, plus the one we just gave you. What was the main event, once again, of the 1999 WWF December pay-per-view? Answer all 3 questions and submit that with your name and address. And good luck. See you next week.
What, I missed like 5 months.
Amongst the set, not amongst the other people,
Yeah,
just
no,
amongst the
You
set.
guys are part of the set, though, and
Oh.
I still didn't get my Metallica T-shirt. I do apologize.
We're part of the set. You hear that? Unbelievable.
I thought you were part of the coffee getting staff, whatever that means.
Oh,
I don't drink coffee, brother.
brother.
Don't make me come over there.
Dude.
Who used to say Shaka Bra?
That was-
Oh, that was Jimmy
Shaka.
Snuka.
Yeah.
That was Crush. Crush says Shaka Bra.
Yeah, but for different reasons. That was a
Yes.
code word.
I thought I thought he said, "Give me some crack."
Oh, jeez. Now we're held for
We'll
libel.
be back after this court case.
Shaka Bra was Hawaiian for Here Come the Handguns.
Mail order handguns. Now there's an idea whose time has come.
That's right.
But let's,
You want to
hey,
know about Chronic, don't you?
let's get to the script as we have it here. We're going to talk about this segment. Who the WWF should fire, and well, I have an obvious choice, but I don't want to bring it up first because Tom and I will argue about it all segment.
Yeah, we should.
Well, I'm not his biggest backer. I just, well, we obviously.
X-Pac.
I tell you what.
Why does he have a job?
He shouldn't even have said it.
Yeah, we're coming.
I thought we were
back.
going to
Before
debate
we get
this.
to X-Pac,
Oh,
let's talk a little bit about some of the obvious choices.
Right.
like The Rock, like The Undertaker, like Steve Austin.
Sure, gone, all of them.
Yeah, all those guys who make money get a
They ain't drawn a dime.
There's some that we can point to specifically, like Taka, Funaki, Crash.
But
That
there's
may be
certain.
debatable.
I'd like to bring up, in my eyes anyway, there's certain guys that they should cut, but for different reasons, like a Crash Holly who has done nothing. Taka could be useful as something. Crash Holly, besides throwing up at WWF New York on the bar, hasn't really done a whole hell of a lot in the WWF. Guys like Steve Blackman, who never hit a stride except that one time when he kicked the alien in the stomach, and the alien made that cool little noise. That was, I'll tell you what, folks, that was the climax of his popularity, and as good as he was, he just got worse after that. But,
I agree.
But guys like Jerry Lynn, who, they're not using him, but he's so much more valuable. He has
But
that new
they're
single
not
out with his
using
band
him.
Nickelback.
If they're not using him, I mean, come on, they're not using him.
But he is a hell of a wrestler. He's better than
So
8 guys out of the top 10. Nah, 2 guys out of the top 10.
I'm
How
not
do you
going
go
to
from
disagree
8
with
to
you.
2?
Well, it's really easy. The number
I'll
6.
give you another guy. Well, good.
Well,
Right,
no, I'm
take
just going to
control.
say we have a couple other guys on the list that seem like obvious choices. The Godfather's one of them.
Who?
Bull
That funny looking
Right,
guy that
censor
was
guy.
Papa
Oh,
Shango.
right.
Bull Buchanan was another one.
Oh, but he's an Oklahoma boy. He's not going to lose his
He
job.
has an amazing amount of potential.
Big Boss Man, there's another one.
Potential at what? Racks?
Yeah, I don't know.
Uh-oh,
Let's
I'm
get
not allowed to
some- let's
say
get
corporate
some names.
sponsors.
These are some names we can debate on. Or are we
Okay,
not?
here's a name then, before we get to the X-Pac fiasco. What about Taz? There's a guy I think the WWF could just cut, and no one would miss him.
I wouldn't cut him.
As
for
was
one,
evident from last Monday.
I wouldn't cut him for one reason. That is, if
Chef
again,
Boyardee.
humor me here. If the WWF is going to split the two, is going to split the company into two, you're going to need some mid-level heels.
Jobbers.
I told you. I know. Not for that
Well,
reason.
I agree.
I'm trying to say humor me here that they're actually going to do the right thing. Yeah. If you're talking about mid-level heels that you're going to need, Taz could be super valuable as one. That's why I wouldn't cut him. I mean, but of course, I'm not in control of the company, and that's why he's.
Well, another thing is, who else would you plug in his position on SmackDown that would be better, honestly?
How about a
You're talking
coat
about an
hanger?
announcer?
Yeah.
I don't mean as an
Give me a
announcer, as
break.
wrestler.
Who's better? You guys ripping
Lord Alfred Hayes.
Point out in the crowd. Throw a nickel
Well,
out in the crowd.
They're
whoever
not.
it hits.
The WWF isn't going to do that. I'm pretty sure.
Well,
So-
I'll do you one better. Throw a dart out of a high building and hit somebody, and that person, in addition to winning the Publishers Clearinghouse, he gets to star on SmackDown opposite Michael Cole, who also should be fired, by the way.
No,
They have
I
so many
wouldn't-
other
I
guys that
wouldn't
can do
fire
that.
Taz for another reasons because they haven't. You're right. They haven't done anything with him, and I guess the potential is there to do something with him. So, I don't know.
Yeah, but we've been talking about Taz's potential for the last year and a
Right,
half.
but it's
He
not
has
like
so
Billy
much
Gunn. Here,
potential.
Billy Gunn they can cut because they've done everything they can with Billy Gunn.
No, he's got to grow his hair long again.
I stand corrected.
Aha.
That's right.
Taz, I mean, yeah, he's going to get another restart. It'll probably mean nothing, but at least you have the potential there to do something with him. Guys like Crash Holly and Billy Gunn, there's nothing left to do with him.
And why do they keep teasing Taz? That's the thing that I wonder. I mean, I
I
said
was
on
ready
this
to pull off the Taz page, but go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I
That's
mean, I
okay.
said on this show a couple weeks ago, and this, of course, generated some bile with some of our readers and some of our viewers, is that, let's give up on the whole Taz thing because it's never going to happen. That's no rip against Taz. I mean, Taz it could be a good, valuable piece of talent. They're just not using him correctly. So, maybe it is just me buying into there's still hope, but, I don't know.
No.
Let's move on.
How about this? Just maybe one pick from Tom over here on the right side. What about Dallas Page?
I
He's
wouldn't have
50
any
years
problem with
old. The gimmick, the Tony Robbins gimmick is dumb. It's so Page reached his climax in WWF while I'm talking about it. What was the past pay-per-view? Survivor Series, when Chuck Palumbo kicked him in the back of the head as Page tried to get up off the ground
So
on the
you're
outside
saying
of the
that
ring.
was the highlight of
That was the
Dallas
highlight.
Page's career.
What else did he do? He
Well,
stalked
if
a couple
If
people.
you're talking about, I assume a high salaried worker that you can cut, I think that would be one of the top ones. And you're probably going to save a lot of money by getting rid of them. So.
We should preface this conversation we're having now by saying that there is no real plans to cut any talent at this level. The WWF is considering talent cuts, but most of that will probably be at the developmental level.
Oh, thank God, those guys with almost potential.
Yeah. So, those of you sitting at home with your, fire Funaki signs, you may not want to start jumping around the house.
You have one of those too, Brian?
Yeah, I have two.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. But we should maybe even hold X-Pac till next segment because we're probably gonna. There may be a fist fight for this one. But
Why don't we do that?
hold
Let you and I make an executive decision for these two kill each other.
I'm not X-Pac's biggest backer.
I'm
I just
between them. So
Where did I come off as X-Pac's
Well,
biggest
you're
fan?
gonna have a chance to speak your piece here.
I don't have anything to say.
You will. Well, we also have one more name on here that we have on this list is Spike Dudley, and I wouldn't be against that. The thing is, and this goes back to the Taz thing of like, let's all chuckle when I say this because it's never going to happen, is if they ever decided in one of these two promotions to do a light heavyweight division.
Oh, I knew that.
I know. I have
it
to
also
say
goes
it.
into Funaki and Taka.
Exactly, I was going to say that. That's where Funaki, Taka, and even, I'm sorry about this, Tom, but Crash Holly, where guys like that could possibly stick around and be valuable. And you can even sign Rey Mysterio Jr. next year and
With a
Juventud
mask.
Guerrera, pending he has nothing in his sock.
Here,
That's maybe where I keep Spike around for, but
in addition to firing Michael Cole, I know we're black and white. This past Sunday on Heat, he actually referred to the WWF light heavyweight title as the WWF cruiserweight title. So, when the announcers don't even know the names of the belts, you should really start the division.
it'd be nice if they changed the name to the Cruiserweight title.
Be nice if they just fired everybody. Got rid of the ring, got rid of the
Everybody.
wrestlers, got rid of everything. All right, we're going to go. Goodbye.
Yeah, I'm lazy. I sit home all day and night.
According to the spies we have out on you, Jim.
That's right.
But
Yeah, you still have that low jack on your leg?
There's a satellite over my house. I don't know what the hell it's doing.
Did David Bowie crash through your roof too, like he did mine?
We're gathering.
Is that what he's doing nowadays? Wow, David.
He's got a good head of hair though.
You know what? For a 56-year-old man, you're right. It's ridiculous.
Good
I was
voice.
watching him live from the BBC or whatever, and thinking, man, I forget it.
I have lost control of this whole ship.
It's amazing how we can
What
talk
did you
about
say?
nothing and manage to go somewhere
Shit.
with it.
It shows you where this show's gone, where Tom's sitting there with a cut-off Skid Row shirt, and I'm sitting here with a Halloween shirt, who no one other than 3 other people in America have ever heard of, and somehow we're on television. Power. This is why the United States is the greatest country in the world. This is why we're a superpower.
Can we get a tight
Actually,
shot of
Canada's
him
a little
with the,
better.
I thought it was that and all the military, however.
Yeah, well, there's that. But
Well, to introduce a new product like Mountain Dew Red, only in America.
I just
Hey,
realized
Diet Coke Lemon, my friend.
It tastes-
is a kick-ass product.
The Mountain Dew Red tastes a lot like a Huggy, that metal and Kool-Aid taste. It's good stuff.
blood.
And blood. But, well, notwithstanding our preferences for metal and blood.
Well, speaking of blood, I think we're going to talk about X-Pac and whether or not he should be lobbed off
Give me
the
one.
roster.
Yes, give me one reason why he shouldn't be.
He knows who Scott Hall is.
Give me one reason in the ring why he shouldn't
He
be.
tucks his jeans into his boots.
He knows
what?
karate.
Well,
He knows karate.
what has he done in 6 years?
He hasn't done a damn thing in 6 years. But
Why is he on the roster?
occasionally, like when he feuded with
Occasionally.
Jericho.
Every time we have this debate, occasionally. When was the last time we debated this? 6 months ago, maybe?
I don't know, something
What
like
has he
that.
done since 6 months ago?
Absolutely nothing. He's been hurt.
What did he... That's another problem. He's always hurt.
Well, Ahmed Johnson was always hurt, and he was allowed to screw up a couple guys' careers, like Jeff Jarrett.
He too got fired, as I recall.
Yeah, after 5 years.
That's because they couldn't understand what the hell he was saying.
Here's another thing. And Jim Ross even brought this up, and I'm trying to ignore that. Jim Ross even brought this up on one of the Ross reports. He broke his neck 6 years ago. Yeah, it's a horrific injury, and I give him all the credit in the world for coming back to it. But he had numerous chances to rehab it a different way than what he's been doing. In his way, not at all. And when you continue to have neck problems, you're doing something wrong.
Well,
I mean, there are
Here,
ways.
But the thing of it is about X-Pac, if that's the way he chooses to rehab it, isn't it ultimately his decision?
But when he goes out with a neck injury that could have been avoided, then that's not. And then that's the wrong
that's kind of a
decision to make.
touchy subject. I mean, how can you really avoid an injury?
He
Okay,
knows-
you could rehab it differently. I agree with that, but
But when he
if you're going to re-injure it, you're going to re-injure it regardless.
That's true, but I mean, I think for those of you that read Kurt Angle's book, he's done some work with his neck muscles that has prevented a certain degree of neck injuries. I'm not talking about the vertebrae; that's a little different area.
Can we get
X-Pac,
an MD next to his name? While we talk?
Dr. Jim DeVruza.
that's me. X-Pac hasn't even come close to even trying that.
Well, I mean, that may be true.
Maybe
but-
the PWR.
Maybe true.
Maybe the PWR trust fund can buy him a Whirlpool or something. So
No,
he
he's
yeah,
a joke.
yeah, it may be true. I don't think any of us have examined his
When
neck.
Jim Ross is opening criticizing him for it, I think it's a
Well-
pretty safe fact.
See, okay, the thing with X-Pac is I don't
Ross also criticized people for being overweight.
Yeah, Rikishi. I don't disagree with you about X-Pac. I mean, I think there maybe is more he could have done to strengthen his neck muscles and to avoid further injury. Same time, he's also falling on his neck how many times a year, and no matter what you do to build on that muscle, every human body is made differently, and some people can withstand that punishment and some can't.
You're right.
What? Why shouldn't he? We're not qualified to make
No,
these
okay, let's
decisions.
just overlook the whole neck injury then.
Well, let me
what has
change
he
into my
done?
doctor's outfit.
Get the smocks. But the thing is, the last few months when he was in the light heavyweight division, he was pulling out some very good matches out of people. And
That's
I think
debatable.
I don't think it is debatable. I think he had some very good matches, and I think that very possibly the WWF was booking him wrong and putting him in the heavyweight division
They
when he
don't book
didn't
anybody
belong.
wrong.
I'm sorry, Tom, you were screaming.
Well, no, they don't book anybody wrong, but I just like to bring up, when he was back with the company now referred to as IT apparently, WCW back in the day, did he not have a good feud with Ric Flair? Did he not have a good feud with Billy Kidman, Chris Jericho, all the other
all of them are
lightweights?
better wrestlers than he is.
Well,
I
the
can
Rock,
wrestle-
the Rock can go in there with Triple H and have a great match, but The Rock can go in there with the Boss Man and no
There's-
magic.
There's a difference between The Rock and
Well, there's a
X-Pac.
difference between Ric Flair and, say, whoever
let's-
X-Pac
let's
wrestles, a
look at the
Road
facts.
Dogg.
X-Pac, in hindsight, was the fourth member of DX. He had a chance to lead X Factor. He failed. He had a chance to do something.
Okay.
He had a chance to do something. in
I
the
think the
cruiserweight
writers had something to do with that failure.
I'm going to take exception to the X Factor because you
no.
put, what was it, X-Pac, Albert, and Justin Credible.
With
Talk
no
about-
story.
Talk about
Alright.
a fishbowl. I mean,
All right. Let me,
well, hey, look, he's standing there not doing anything. Get him out there.
Yeah.
all right. Well,
Albert.
we're debating in kind of a vacuum here, but let's look at it this way. Yeah, he can wrestle okay to good matches with guys that are better than him. What can he do with guys that are worse than him when you're trying to create a division? I mean, you put him in there against Crash Holly, who I think on X-Pac's best day is probably better than. The match just isn't going to work, and it's going to be X-Pac's fault.
We could, like you said, we could debate this to no end. I mean,
Fire him. There's no debate. He's a waste.
but they would fire. They would
Name me one thing he's done in the past 4 years.
wear those overalls.
I can name in 5.
Obviously, I'm scrounging for stuff. Jim, he hasn't done a whole hell of a lot. That's
He's done
obvious.
nothing.
like
Whole
Wiz
hell of a lot.
Martindale.
He's done nothing.
His interviews have not gotten any better since when he broke in. The thing is, I believe, now this is just me, if he's properly motivated with a feud with somebody better than him, I know, I'm still talking, somebody better than him possibly, you can drag a good match out of him. You can maybe drag a good feud out of him.
Drag,
Maybe not. Drag,
Drag.
exactly.
Okay, drag.
He's
Maybe.
not the one, I mean,
Ifs and maybes.
in addition to Dean Malenko being number 1 on PWI's top 500, I think X-Pac was number 2 that year, but
We should wrap this up.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up. We're going to cool these guys off, and we're going to come back and do rants, so stay with us.
It's about 3 weeks ago now when he and Austin were doing that overbooked diatribe of singing in the ring. That statement was unbelievably horrible, but one clear fact remained. The Rock, and I hate to say to a lesser extent Austin because he did a great job as well. As bad as that statement was, I think those two guys proved that they're the best at playing the crowd, getting the crowd's emotion, getting the crowd reaction. I think as bad as that statement was, I think they did a great job with it. Now the focus of this rant's The Rock, and Tom, I hate to break it to you, big guy, but The Rock, I think, is one of the best faces, or is either up there or becoming close to one of the best faces ever in wrestling history. Nobody has the personality that he has. Nobody has the charm and the charisma, the delivery, both in and out of the ring. Nobody in wrestling history can get an entire arena to finish his catchphrases. Nobody's ever done it. Maybe it's because around the time he was becoming popular, it was kind of innovative at the time. But The Rock is just proven time and again every week, at least partially in the ring and 90% on the microphone, he is one of the best at what he does. And I toss it to you, Brian.
Much like Ricky Steamboat, I think I swallowed my tongue,
Oh God.
but I'm still talking,
Just
so
don't
apparently I
pound
didn't.
the table and scream E. We talked about this already this week and last week, and I just want to kind of get my final shot in. We are taping the show before SmackDown is aired, so our knowledge of that show is unavailable. But I think that unless the WWF changes things drastically on SmackDown, that with this world title unification match coming up tomorrow night at Vengeance, they have severely insulted Ric Flair, a guy they just signed and just gave a lot of money to and helped buy his contract out of AOL Time Warner. When they did it, they just insulted him. It's like they poked him in the eye. Reason I say that, Ric Flair is the most storied world heavyweight champion of all time. You know, you can talk Bruno Sammartino because he held it, the length of his title reign. Different time, different age. I don't think he's the greatest world champion ever. Hulk Hogan, yeah, okay, he took the WWF to levels of business they never ever before realized. Steve Austin, the title reigns didn't mean a whole lot. Same with The Rock. Ric Flair in world heavyweight title, you're going to see one day in the dictionary, whenever you look up World Wrestling Champ, you're going to see a picture of Ric Flair. And I realize that's a cliche, but Ric Flair made the World Heavyweight Championship in wrestling what it is. And to have him on your roster and to have brought him in such a dramatic way and to not have given him a role at all in this heavyweight title unification match, other than booking the thing, is ridiculous, is an insult, and needs to be taken care of.
I gracefully accept the ball. Notwithstanding Chris Jericho's new red ponytail, which I'm sure Scott Hudson would have a lot of fun analyzing, I've actually enjoyed his heel turn in the sense that the way he's played off The Rock. He's starting to give really good promos. He just looks like he's ready to take that next step and to be a main eventer. And I realize we've talked about this many times on the show about, is it Chris Jericho's time? Well, the WWF has a chance this Sunday at Vengeance to maybe give Chris Jericho that extra effort, that extra boost, that extra bit of confidence, and say, we're going to give you something, even though it doesn't mean as much, as Brian just told you, we're going to make you the first unified champion. Here's a guy that he's starting to mirror The Rock and Steve Austin from a few years ago. These are two guys, Austin and The Rock, who you knew back then in 98 and 97 that these guys were going to be the next big thing. Everything they did, their interviews, their matches, they made sure that they gave everything they had. And this goes into Austin's first title reign when he took someone, Mick Foley, who was a great worker and made him even better, even though he was dude love. These are the kind of things that I think Chris Jericho is capable of doing right now, taking other people like a Rob Van Dam, like an Edge, and making world title matches. Yeah, maybe The Undertaker's not involved, maybe Kane's not involved, maybe Kurt Angle's not involved, but still, you're giving Chris Jericho the opportunity, the same opportunity that was afforded to The Rock and Steve Austin a few years earlier.
Well, obviously, I'm going to take heat, word, whatever you want to call it, with Jim and The Rock being the best face of all time. I point out this classic example, a group like O-Town or a group like NSYNC. I don't know how the hell their albums sell as much as they do. They're all image. They're no substance, I should say. All image. There is nothing real about them. And the thing about The Rock is, okay, I'll give you this. He can work a crowd like no other. But if I were to go on Raw, little old me were to go on Raw and say things like aardvark testicles, or some of the things he says, his little cliches. Cliches are very catchy. I would have people finishing my lines, no doubt about it. And to compare him as one of the best faces of all time, it brings a tear to my eye naturally, a kick to the backside or whatnot. When you have a guy like Ric Flair, heel or face, Flair was good. I know this is coming at me, so I got to watch. Heel or face, maybe people weren't finishing Flair's statements at the time, but when they go woo, or when they hold up four fingers, or at the 93 Starrcade when he wrestled Vader in front of his hometown with his career on the line, everybody in that arena were on their feet. And no, Flair didn't spout off a whole bunch of things like, you smell what I'm cooking or this or that. He made people believe in him from what he did in the ring rather than what came out of his mouth. Not that Flair's interviews are the best in wrestling history, undeniable. But people got behind Ric Flair for his ability rather than for his innovativeness to watch bet and come up with new cliches. Even thus, well, I'm out of time, but...
Well, hell, you convinced me. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I'm done.
We can debate it next week, I'm sure.
Always, every week.
Brian?
Oh, hey, okay. If you want to read my column, it's called Sharpshooter. You can read it in the Daily News. Pick it up on newsstands everywhere today. Read it on the internet, www.dailynewsmckeysport.com. Check me out on the columnist section, and give you a little bit of more of a preview of Vengeance.
If you want to read my column, you can pick it up on the newsstands tomorrow, or you can read it on the web. It's www.triblive.com/sports. I, too, will be looking at Vengeance, and if Brian doesn't give you all that you need to know, you can read my column on
It's
Sunday.
like a 1-2 punch.
It's incredible. It's just
Very
Right
thorough
there.
coverage. If you want to reach us on the internet, it's prowrestlingreview@lycos.com. We're 2 weeks away. Count 2. That's right, I said 2 weeks away from the Christmas show. Give us some ideas. And I guess we're close to 3 weeks away from our year-end award show. So
No, that's the year-end awards at the Christmas show. Just forget.
see what happens when you have absenteeism.
well, hey, vote, go on the website, vote for year-end awards, send it to prowrestlingreview@lycos.com.
And yeah, good, Jim. I mean, Tom.
Oh, I have nothing left to plug.
Okay, don't forget about I hate. Good, Jim.
I hate PWR@cs.com. If you hate us that bad, you'll care enough to write to us there.
Oh, I guess I can read the trivia question. What was the main event of 1999's December pay-per-view? I believe it was Armageddon, so it was a barn burner. Send that to us, along with the 3 on the website, prowrestlingreview.com, or never get the email address right, so I'm not going to attempt it. So the pay-per-view, December 99, Armageddon, what was it? And for bonus, who cared? And for us, we do care, for me, for Rennie, for Jim, and for Brian, we hope to see you next week, Jim.
I hope
for
to
2
be
weeks
here.
in a row. This is Pro Wrestling Review, and goodbye.